Hello there and welcome to Earth Files, where quiet curiosity drifts into the deep layers of time and imagination. Tonight, we're not going to talk about what you dream in a fleeting moment or what tomorrow might bring. Instead, we're going to explore something just a little strange, something both gentle and profound. What if the world you visit when you close your eyes is more than memory or imagination? What if dreams are not merely fleeting pictures, not just your mind's wandering after a long day, but subtle windows into something larger, something older than you, older than humanity itself? I'd love to know where you are as you listen tonight. What hour is it where you sit, perhaps in a quiet room or beneath the soft hum of a city? If this gentle curiosity is your kind of curiosity, a small invitation tap like, leave a comment or subscribe. It helps this quiet signal drift to other minds who may be wandering and awake, or asleep but listening nonetheless. Let's take a slow breath and let our thoughts settle into the rhythm of Earth's long memory, because before we can wonder what might exist in dreams, we have to understand just how much time the planet has seen, and how little of it we humans can even begin to touch. The Earth is patient. For billions of years, it has borne oceans, mountains, deserts, and forests. Life has risen, shifted, vanished, and returned. Layers of stone and sediment record its history in ways that move slower than our senses, slower than memory. And yet, hidden in those layers, in the folds of deep time, there may be whispers, not loud, not always visible, but they're for those who listen carefully. Consider, for a moment, the faint echo of a river carving through stone, its path unchanged for millennia, carrying fragments of leaves, bones, and perhaps a memory or two. Or a desert wind, brushing across dunes shaped over thousands of years, carrying grains of sand that may have been part of a mountain once. Even the stars overhead, constant in their flicker, have seen worlds rise and fall, civilizations flourish and fade, and dreams uncounted drift across the minds of creatures, both human and otherwise. Now imagine that a dream might carry more than what we imagine, not just scenes stitched together from daily life, not just the mind's random fireworks, but traces of the past, shadows of landscapes or beings that once walked, swam, or flew across this planet. A memory, perhaps, of something Earth itself has not forgotten entirely. Some scientists have begun to ask questions like this, quietly, in labs and conferences. They explore memory consciousness and even the possibility that certain brain patterns can connect us to something beyond ourselves, though not in a way that defies physics, only in a way that suggests we are linked to the rhythms of the world. Just as sediment layers carry stories in stone, maybe our minds, in sleep, brush against a history that is otherwise invisible. Think of the ancient forests of the Carboniferous period, vast swaths of fern and tree, where the air was thick with oxygen and life moved slowly. Or the shallow seas of the Devonian, teeming with fish whose forms would later vanish without trace. What if dreams could carry the scent of those waters, the tremor of the soil under creatures long gone, the feeling of being somewhere before humanity drew its first lines in sand? And yet, for all its mystery, the Earth is efficient at forgetting. Bones dissolve, wood decays, mountains crumble. Fossils form only under the most specific circumstances. Cities and roads, even the grandest civilizations, vanish in the sweep of millennia. So the traces of past worlds, even those that may have influenced the planet in some subtle way, are faint. They require patience to notice, a willingness to see without expecting certainty, to wander slowly and let your mind drift as the planet does. Maybe dreams are the same, fleeting, Fragile, hard to hold, and yet persistent. They rise from the unconscious as gentle threads connecting what is now to what was, or what might have been. And sometimes, if we lie still and quiet, those threads feel as tangible as the soil beneath our hands, the wind across our face, the pulse of life that has never stopped. To understand the possibility of dreams as portals, we have to look at the long memory of the planet. Imagine, for a moment, the rocks beneath your feet. Each stone has a story that is older than most living things. Sedimentary layers are like pages in a book, though a book that is written in a language slower than human eyes can read. Shifts in minerals, tiny inclusions of fossils, the subtle twists of crystalline structure, each carries the evidence of processes that took millions, sometimes billions of years. And here is the most delicate thought. Even the smallest fragment can hold meaning, if you know how to listen. A grain of quartz may contain bubbles of ancient water, trapped when the mineral first formed, water that might have seen early microbial life. A trace of carbon might hint at an ecosystem that existed hundreds of millions of years ago. Time is not linear here. In the rock, a single moment of the past can coexist with the present. And if dreams are portals, perhaps they touch the same kind of layering, one moment, one memory, one landscape, bleeding softly into another. There are hints, too, in the biological record. Life on Earth has had time to experiment, to evolve, to create forms and behaviors beyond our imagining. Trilobites that crawled across shallow seas, ammonites spinning through the ocean depths, towering ferns swaying in prehistoric forests. All of it might seem distant, almost mythic. But imagine dreaming as if you were one of these creatures, not as a human imagining, but as a thread in the living tapestry itself. In sleep, the mind can be porous, boundaries blur. Perhaps consciousness is capable of touching patterns left behind in DNA, in soil, in water, in the air itself. It is tempting to dismiss these ideas, to call them fantasy, and yet, when we study how memory works, how experiences can ripple through generations, how trauma, habit, and even instinct seem to persist beyond a single lifetime, the possibility becomes quietly compelling. Sleep, after all, is when our brains consolidate memories, when signals are strengthened, weakened, or redirected. Could it be that the mind is also sensitive to the subtle rhythms of the earth, vibrations of time so faint we barely notice them? Could dreams be the medium through which these vibrations become audible? Consider, too, the human experience of déjà vu, of fleeting familiarity, of dreams that seem impossibly precise or strangely prophetic. Perhaps these sensations are not random. Perhaps they are echoes of something real, faint traces of events, places, or lives that existed long before we did. Perhaps they are messages from the planet itself, whispers carried across millennia, waiting for a quiet mind to hear. Even as we speak, the world continues to move and change. Rivers shift, mountains erode, forests grow and collapse. The fossil record is patchy. Geological processes rewrite history constantly, yet something persists. Patterns emerge, forms repeat, fragments remain. And in dreams, those fragments may be reconstructed, not as they were, but as the mind interprets them, softened, rearranged, beautiful, and sometimes haunting. It is worth remembering that all of this is both ancient and immediate. The idea of dreams as portals is not just about the deep past, it is also about the present. As you listen, the air around you carries vibrations of life, birdsong, wind, the hum of electricity, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. These two are part of the Earth's story, flowing into your consciousness, mingling with your dreams tonight. Perhaps In the small hours, you will drift into a scene that is not memory, not invention, but something in between, a place that existed long before your awareness and may persist long after it fades. And so, tonight, we take the first step, a quiet one. We acknowledge that time is vast, far vaster than we often allow ourselves to imagine. We acknowledge that the planet has memory, that life has memory, and that perhaps our own consciousness is a fragile instrument capable of glimpsing some of that record. We do not rush, we do not demand clarity or certainty. We simply let ourselves wander, slowly, across landscapes of mind and matter, across patterns etched in stone and in dream. The question is not whether dreams are portals, exactly. The question is whether we can notice them if they are, whether we can lie still, breathe slowly, and let ourselves be carried across time, across earth, across experiences that have long ceased to exist except in fragments. If we can, then the possibility opens gently, quietly, without fanfare, and in that space, curiosity blooms. Not the fevered curiosity of an urgent problem to solve, but the slow, patient curiosity of someone listening to a river, watching wind move across sand, feeling the pulse of the planet itself. So tonight, as we begin, let us drift with patience. Let us follow the rhythm of tides and tectonics, of seed and fossil, of memory and stone. Let us allow the mind to slow, to notice details, to wonder without seeking an immediate answer. And let us consider, softly, that the places we visit in dreams may be more than imagination. They may be echoes of worlds we do not fully understand, windows to experiences that are both alien and familiar, stitched into the quiet memory of Earth itself. Because if dreams are portals, the first step is to be still enough to see them, to notice without forcing, to wonder without expectation, and to feel the gentle thread of connection between what is, what was, and what might be. And in that silence, that soft attention, the journey begins. And now we begin. As we settle further into the quiet of the night, let us carry with us the thought that dreams might be more than fleeting shadows of memory. Perhaps they are echoes, whispers, or windows, revealing landscapes that are older than any human record, older even than the oldest stone walls we have ever built. Let us wander gently, letting time stretch like soft clay beneath our feet, observing the faint signs of life that the earth has left behind, and imagining what messages might reach us in the half-light of sleep. Consider the deep oceans, those vast, silent chambers that cover the majority of our planet. For most of Earth's history, life existed only in water, moving in patterns dictated by currents and tides, seeking light and sustenance in an alien world. Trilobites scuttled along the seafloor, their segmented bodies reflecting the muted light filtering from above. Early fish swam with fins yet unshaped for full control, their tiny hearts beating to rhythms that are now lost. Could a dream, if we let it, carry the subtle echo of those currents? Could the memory of these waters, moving unceasingly for hundreds of millions of years, seep into our own consciousness, if only we lie still enough to sense it? Above the waves, land was sparse, often barren. But in some places, small ecosystems emerged, fragile and exquisite. Lush fern forests rose where rivers had carved valleys, sheltering creatures that might never again appear. In dreams, perhaps, we can walk among them, feeling the cool shade of giant ferns brushing against our arms, the soft vibration of insects in the soil, the faint scent of resin and wet earth. These sensations might be memories, not ours, but of the earth itself, stored in the sediment and rocks, in the echoes of wind and water, waiting to brush against our consciousness in the quiet hours of sleep. It is remarkable to consider how much of this world has disappeared and yet persists. Rocks crumble, forests fall, seas dry, and yet the memory remains in subtle ways. Trace fossils, impressions in stone, tiny shells embedded in limestone, all speak of lives lived and then gone. Perhaps in dreams, we can sense more than the record itself. Perhaps we can feel the motion of a fin in water that existed hundreds of millions of years ago, or the gentle sway of a fern that no longer grows. Dreams, then, might be the medium through which these faint vibrations of past life reach us. And yet, dreams are elusive. They slip through our fingers if we attempt to capture them, fading as quickly as a wave pulls away from the shore. They are impressions rather than images, sensations rather than scenes, and this is where their subtlety lies. A dream may carry a sense of a place long vanished, or a life long extinct, without our ever fully comprehending its source. We may feel the presence of something that existed before human thought, before human observation, a shadow of a world that was never recorded, and yet is not entirely gone. In sleep, the mind organizes these impressions into forms, and sometimes the result is startling. You might dream of standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at a river that has carved a canyon no human has ever seen. Or you may walk through a forest where the trees are impossibly tall, yet every leaf, every tendril, is rooted in the patterns of life that actually existed millions of years ago. In these dreams, the past is not history. It is immediate, tangible, and alive. Time collapses, distances fade. And yet, there is no fear, only gentle awareness, the feeling of being connected to a narrative far larger than yourself. The earth itself participates in this quiet storytelling. Consider the layers of sediment laid down in ancient lakes. Each layer is like a heartbeat, a record of rain, dust, volcanic ash, and microscopic organisms. Each layer contains a story, and perhaps our dreams are capable of reading these subtle narratives. A flake of mineral in a dream dominates with a dreamer's consciousness, a pattern of light across a dreamscape reflecting sunlight that fell on Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. The connection is not conscious, not deliberate, but it is there, waiting to be noticed by a mind that is still enough to perceive it. Some researchers have proposed that consciousness is more deeply entwined with the world than we usually consider. Our brains are tuned to patterns, sensitive to frequencies, rhythms, and repetitions. Could it be that in sleep, our minds align with the rhythms of the planet itself, catching fragments of experience that are otherwise lost to history? Perhaps this is why certain dreams feel unexplainable, why they carry a sense of familiarity, even when we have never consciously visited the place we are dreaming of. Perhaps they are echoes of landscapes, not from memory, but from time itself. Even the skies participate in this quiet dialogue. The positions of stars, the slow drift of constellations across eons, the phases of the moon as it waxes and wanes, all are markers in a vast cosmic calendar. When we dream, we may feel these markers as patterns of light or subtle changes in the atmosphere of our imagined worlds. We may perceive, in ways to gentle and fleeting forewords, the movement of time on a scale that dwarfs human life. In this sense, dreams may be portals not only to the distant past of Earth, but to the rhythms of the cosmos itself. Consider also the possibility of ancient intelligence, not necessarily human, but life that had developed forms of thought or culture before our species existed. Perhaps the traces of faint a peculiar pattern of fossilized dwellings, an anomaly in mineral deposits, a sequence of shapes in coral formations, but present nonetheless. Dreams might allow our mind to perceive these traces, reconstructing them into forms that feel familiar yet are entirely alien. In sleep, the boundary between observation and interpretation softens, allowing impressions of past intelligence to be felt rather than analyzed. And what of our own ancestors? Early humans and pre-human species have walked the earth for millions of years, each leaving faint imprints upon the landscape. In dreams, we may touch these lives as easily as we touch our own memories. Perhaps a dream of a campfire is also a dream of a time before fire, before words, before thought in the form we recognize. Perhaps the warmth we feel is not only imagined, but a memory carried in the layers of the world, echoing back to us through the rhythm of consciousness. It is tempting to see all of this as speculative, even whimsical. And yet, the more we study the mind, the more we realize how much we do not know. Neuroscientists have documented phenomena in dreams that challenge conventional understanding: the perception of time slowed or accelerated, the experience of landscapes that do not exist in waking life, and a heightened sensitivity to subtle patterns and rhythms. These discoveries hint that the mind may be capable of interacting with information that is not strictly sensory, that may be environmental, historical, or even geological in nature. Think of a quiet, misted valley in your dreams, where the soil feels alive under your feet and every sound seems to carry a history. You may not know whether this place exists or existed, and perhaps it does not matter. What matters is the awareness, the subtle recognition that the mind is engaging with something far beyond the present moment, something layered, slow, and vast. In that awareness, the dream becomes more than imagery. It becomes a portal, fragile, fleeting, but real in its own way. And yet, just as with the fossil record, not every impression survives. Dreams fade. Layers of memory cover them. The mind forgets or reshapes, just as erosion reshapes mountains and rivers. Only careful attention, quiet presence, and the willingness to drift without expectation allow these subtle impressions to persist, even briefly. In sleep, we are explorers, wandering through landscapes that are both ancient and immediate, where every sensation is a potential key to understanding what has been preserved in the slow memory of the planet. There are moments when the mind senses patterns that were never consciously observed. A dream of flowing water may echo the course of a river long dried. A dream of strange formations in stone who reconstruct features that only exist in microscopic fossils. A pattern of light or shadow might reflect the angle of sunlight hundreds of millions of years ago. In these moments, dreams are not merely personal, they are participatory, a way of aligning human consciousness with the deep, quiet rhythms of Earth itself. Perhaps, in some distant corner of the mind, we carry fragments of knowledge that our waking selves cannot access. Perhaps these fragments are carried by the Earth itself, embedded in rock, soil, water, and air, and the dream is the only medium through which they can be sensed. Perhaps the small thrill of recognition we feel when a dream seems impossibly precise is our consciousness brushing against a memory that belongs not only to us, but to the planet. It is a gentle thought, but powerful in its scope, that every dream might carry a whisper of time, a trace of something vast and enduring. That as we close our eyes, we may wander through landscapes of deep history, feel the pulse of extinct oceans, hear the hum of forests long gone, and touch the presence of lives that existed before ours. All of it is subtle, fleeting, often incomprehensible, yet beautiful and grounding in its quiet resonance. So let us continue, Let us lie still and breathe slowly, allowing the mind to drift. Allow yourself to notice the textures of imagined stone beneath your hands, the scent of rain in forests that exist only in dream, the pulse of life beneath waves long vanished. These are the soft markers of portals, traces of memory woven into the rhythms of earth, waiting to be perceived, and in noticing them, you are already participating in a story that is far older and more intricate than any human narrative. Because if dreams are portals, the journey is subtle. It is not a matter of discovery in the conventional sense. It is a matter of presence, of listening, of allowing consciousness to drift through layers of time, space, and sensation. Each dream may open a window, revealing a fragment of Earth's memory, a hint of life that was, or a whisper of intelligence long gone. And the more we attend to these whispers, the more our understanding deepens, not in facts or certainty, but in awareness, in wonder, and in quiet curiosity. And so, as we finish this part of our journey, know that the world you visit in dreams is neither entirely imagined nor entirely remembered. It is a bridge between the present and the deep, slow currents of time, a gentle pathway across landscapes, lives, and forms that predate and surpass our comprehension. The portals are subtle, but they are there. They invite us to slow down, to notice, and to wonder. And if we allow ourselves, they may guide us toward a deeper understanding of what it means to be part of this living, remembering, dreaming Earth. As we move deeper into this journey, the quiet question remains: if dreams are portals, where do they lead? We have wandered through possibilities of ancient oceans, vanished forests, subtle echoes of life carried in stone and soil. Yet dreams are not static places. They shift, they guide, they reveal. They do not give us maps, but pathways that appear only as we take the next step. Tonight, let us walk through one such pathway. Imagine you are dreaming. The world around you is familiar, and yet not. You stand on a plain of stone, its surface cracked and veined, stretching farther than the eye can follow. The air is heavy with heat, though no sun is visible. In the distance, a ridge rises, carved not by human hands, but by the patient labor of wind and water, millions of years at work. You walk toward it, slowly, each step echoing as though across hollow ground. As you draw nearer, you notice shapes embedded in the stone beneath your feet, not fossils, not bones, but patterns. Circular impressions, delicate spirals, ridges that seem almost too deliberate to be natural. And yet, who could have left them? The plain feels older than memory itself, older than the continents as we know them. Perhaps the patterns are geological, the result of mineral crystallization, or perhaps they are something else the dream does not tell you. It leaves the question open, an invitation to wonder. In this dream, you touch one of the spirals, and for a moment, the world shifts. The stone feels warm, almost alive. A vision rises not of a creature or a city, but of movement, tides, currents, migrations, patterns of life repeating across ages, as though the spiral is a record of motion, not of form. You feel not that you are learning something new, but remembering something long forgotten, a truth carried not in words but in rhythm. Dreams often work this way. They do not hand us clear answers. They give us fragments, sensations, impressions. Perhaps this is how portals must operate. Not as doorways to a complete world, but as glimpses, like shafts of light through cracks in a cavern. Each glimpse is incomplete, but together they hint at something larger, something we cannot yet hold all at once. The landscape of the dream continues to shift. The ridge ahead is closer now, and as you approach, you see that it is not simply stone, but layered, strata upon strata, folded and twisted. Within those folds, there are faint glimmers of color reds, greens, silvers like minerals catching light that should not exist in this dim atmosphere. You climb carefully, feeling the texture of each layer under your hands, the grain of time compressed into stone. Each layer feels like a page in a book, though one without words. And as you climb, you begin to sense that the ridge is not merely a feature of the landscape. It is a record, vast and patient, a library of Earth itself. In waking life, geologists know this truth well. Sedimentary layers preserve traces of past environments, telling stories of ancient lakes, deserts, and seas. Volcanic rock preserves eruptions that reshaped landscapes in moments of fire and ash. Metamorphic rock whispers of heat and pressure, of transformation hidden deep within the crust. But in dreams, these records are not silent, they are alive. Each layer seems to hum with memory, a vibration that resonates not with the ear, but with the mind. As you place your hand on one layer, a vision comes of forest, dense and humid, where dragonflies the size of hawks drift above swamps, thick with moss and fern. The air is heavy with oxygen, alive with sound. The dream does not show you a map or a specific date, but a sensation, the world as it was, hundreds of millions of years ago. You move your hand to another layer, and now you see a shallow sea, coral reefs alive with color, fish darting in shimmering schools. Again, it is not history, but memory. The ridge is a portal, and each layer a threshold. Perhaps this is the true nature of dreams as portals. They are not transport in the physical sense, they are communion. They allow us to feel the deep rhythms of Earth, to brush against lives and landscapes beyond our own time. They connect consciousness with memory in a way that words or fossils alone cannot. They remind us that we are part of something vast, that our existence is woven into a story stretching far beyond the boundaries of human history. You climb higher still, and the visions continue. You see deserts where rivers once flowed, then rivers cutting through rock that was once desert. You see mountains rise and crumble, oceans open and close. Each scene is fleeting, shifting, and yet each carries a resonance of truth. They are not inventions of the dream, but impressions of the Earth's own transformations. And in this way, the dream becomes not just a story, but a dialogue. The Earth speaks, and the dreamer listens, but then something shifts again. Among the natural scenes, you glimpse something different. A pattern too deliberate, too precise, to be explained as mere geology. Not buildings, not machines, nothing so obvious, but perhaps a structure of thought, a form of intelligence expressed not in stone blocks or tools, but in arrangement, in subtle design. A formation that feels purposeful, though its purpose is beyond comprehension. The dream does not linger on it. It flashes, then fades, as though reminding you that not all records are clear, not all portals are open. Some remain hidden, awaiting another night, another mind, another moment of stillness. But the impression lingers, a sense that intelligence may not be as rare as we assume, that the Earth, in its long story, may have known forms of thought before ours, and that perhaps, in the quiet of dreams, those forms can still be sensed. You reach the top of the ridge, and the view expands. Before you lies a vast plain, dotted with lakes that shimmer like mirrors. The sky is dim, yet filled with motion clouds sweeping in patterns that feel almost like language. The air is still, and yet alive with presence. And in that moment, you understand that the dream has not taken you to a specific place or time. It has taken you to a perspective, a way of seeing the Earth, not as fragments of history, but as a living continuum where every layer, every form, every rhythm is connected. You stand there, breathing slowly, feeling the vastness of time settle into your awareness. The plain, the lakes, the sky, all of it begins to dissolve, gently, like mist in morning light. The dream does not end abruptly. It fades, carrying with it the impressions you have gathered, spirals in stone, layers of memory, fleeting glimpses of intelligence. You wake, perhaps, with only fragments, but fragments are enough. They carry the resonance of something larger, something beyond the reach of waking thought. And this is the essence of dreams as portals. They do not give us certainty. They do not offer maps or instructions. They offer impressions, sensations, whispers. They invite us to slow down, to notice, to wonder. They remind us that our consciousness is not isolated, but connected to rhythms far older and far larger than ourselves. In waking life, we may analyze these dreams, search for meaning, categorize them as products of the brain. And in many ways, that is true. Dreams arise from the activity of the mind. But perhaps the mind is not only a container of memory. Perhaps it is also a receiver, sensitive to patterns in the environment, attuned to vibrations of time and matter. Perhaps dreams are the medium through which the earth communicates with us, not in words, but in presence. This thought is not meant to replace science, but to accompany it. Geology, paleontology, and archaeology give us the record, the evidence, the framework of Earth's story. Dreams may give us the resonance, the feeling, the sense of connection. Together, they create a more complete picture, one that honors both the mind's capacity for analysis and its gift for imagination. So let us continue, gently, let us hold on to the fragments of the dream, even as they fade. Let us remember the spirals in stone, the layers of memory, the fleeting glimpses of intelligence. Let us carry them with us, not as answers, but as questions that deepen our sense of wonder, that remind us of the vastness of time, and that invite us to listen more closely to the whispers of the earth. Because if dreams are portals, then perhaps every night is an invitation to wander, to listen, to connect, an invitation to step beyond the boundaries of waking thought and into the vast, layered memory of the planet itself. And in accepting that invitation, we do not escape the world. We return to it more deeply, more fully, more aware of the quiet threads that bind us to everything that has ever been. And as this part of our journey draws to a close, we do not end. We drift as dreams drift, carrying fragments into the next moment, the next question, the next quiet exploration. And now we continue. In dreams, the landscapes are never still. They bend and reshape themselves with each breath, carrying us through corridors of memory that feel older than our own lives. The ridge fades behind, and the plain below becomes something different. The lakes shimmer once more, then darken, spreading into a wide expanse of water. It is not a single sea, but countless shallows, braided channels, estuaries filled with light and shadow. The air smells of salt and life. It feels familiar, though not in any way the waking mind can place. The dream seems to whisper that this is a moment long before humans, long before mammals, a time when amphibians stretched themselves onto muddy backs, testing lungs in air heavy with humidity. The surface of the water quivers with insects too large for the world we know, their wings reflecting colors like molten metal. Fish with armored scales break the water's surface and slip back down into currents that pull across sandbars unseen. The dream takes you lower, as if the water itself were a doorway. Beneath the surface, the clarity of vision sharpens. Each blade of submerged plant life waves slowly in a rhythm that feels like breath. Creatures drift by, some familiar in outline, others startlingly strange. Bodies armored in plates, jaws fringed with teeth more numerous than necessary. A pair of eyes that glow faintly even in the dimness. Nothing in this scene feels invented. It feels remembered, as though Earth itself has carried these impressions and allowed the dream to play them back for a fleeting moment. You realize that in this dream, time is not linear. The water does not belong to one age. It carries traces of many. A giant amphibian lingers near the bank, its heavy body pushing ripples outward. Then, with a blink, the scene shifts and the bank is gone, replaced by coral, by creatures with shells patterned in spirals so precise they look like art. Another blink, and the coral too has vanished, leaving instead a murky sea where shadows pass overhead, massive and slow. It is not a sequence, it is a weaving. The dream presents the layers, not one after another, but folded together, overlapping like the strata of stone on the ridge. You are not moving forward or backward in time. You are simply immersed in its depth, sensing how many worlds have existed in the space beneath your feet, each one complete, each one forgotten, yet none of them lost entirely. In waking life, we often look for boundaries, the start of an epoch, the end of an era, the division between species, between landscapes, between ages. But here in the dream, the divisions blur. The Carboniferous forest leans into the Devonian Sea, which shades into the Triassic shore. It is as though the Earth remembers not with discrete chapters, but with a single continuous flow, and the dream, as portal, allows us to experience that flow directly. There is a strange comfort in this, to see that nothing is isolated, that our moment too is not separate, but braided into the same current. The forests we walk through today, the rivers we depend on, the air we breathe, each is part of this unbroken weaving. And the dream whispers again that even our lives, fleeting as they are, leave impressions, not always in stone, not always in fossil, but in the continuity of the whole. The water grows darker, the dream pulling you further down. The pressure builds, and with it, a quiet resonance. It feels less like sound than vibration, as though the ocean floor itself is humming. You touch the seabed and find it alive with patterns, trails etched into sediment, meandering lines that speak of creatures moving unseen. Here and there, faint ridges reveal shells that have long since dissolved, leaving only their imprints. Each mark is subtle, fragile, and yet in the dream it glows faintly, reminding you that every movement leaves a trace, however delicate. The resonance deepens, the seabed shifts, tilting, as though the earth itself is rolling in its sleep. A fissure opens, not with violence, but with inevitability. Heat rises from below, carrying minerals that shimmer like dust suspended in sunlight. This is a place of birth, where new crust forms, where the earth remakes itself, and in the dream, you realize that this too is memory, the kind carried not in fossils or ruins, but in the living act of creation itself. The heat rises further, and suddenly the water vanishes. The dream does not end, it transforms. You stand now on black stone, still warm, the surface fractured and sharp. The air is thin, the horizon raw. This is a newborn landscape, volcanic and barren. Yet even here, life whispers at the edges, tiny filaments grow in cracks, stretching toward faint moisture. Crystals form in shallow pools, arranging themselves into shapes that echo the spirals and ridges seen before. It is as though the planet is sketching possibilities, experimenting with form, and then, just as quickly, the landscape shifts again, green returns. A forest rises around you, but not one you would recognize. The trees are immense, their trunks swollen, their branches reaching out with leaves shaped like spears. The ground is soft with moss, thick enough to cushion every step. Insects hum, their wings catching shafts of light that pierce the canopy. The air is dense, filled with the scent of growth. This forest feels older than language, older than story, yet it does not feel silent, it breathes. The trees exhale, the moss exhales, the very ground exhales, and you feel yourself inhaling with it, part of the same rhythm. The dream carries not only sight, but sensation, the dampness of the air, the texture of bark, the sound of water dripping somewhere beyond view. In waking life, these details might be dismissed as invention, but in the dream, they carry the weight of truth. For a moment, you pause. If dreams are portals, then perhaps they are not only windows into what was, but bridges into how it felt to live within those worlds. To stand in a carboniferous forest and breathe the dense air. To walk across a barren volcanic plain still cooling from its birth. To drift through seas alive with creatures we have never known. These are not fictions. They are experiences that Earth itself has carried, impressions imprinted in its fabric, and somehow the dreaming mind is able to touch them. The forest begins to blur. The trunks dissolve into mist, and the mist swirls into shapes that are unfamiliar. They are not natural forms, not trees, not mountains, not rivers. They are patterns, geometric, deliberate, lines intersecting, circles within circles, lattice that seem to shift as you look at them, like structures built from thought rather than matter. Here, the dream is less generous. The patterns do not explain themselves. They offer no scene, no context, no story, only their presence. You sense intelligence within them, but intelligence of a kind that does not translate into human terms. It feels as though you have stumbled into the trace of something, a residue not of geology or biology, but of awareness itself. The dream lets you glimpse it, but only briefly. Then the mist thickens and the patterns fade, leaving only the forest floor beneath your feet. It would be easy to dismiss this moment, to call it imagination layered onto memory, yet the impression lingers. Perhaps the earth has not only carried records of life and land, but of thought. Perhaps consciousness itself leaves an imprint, subtle but enduring, folded into the same layers as stone and fossil. If so, then dreams may be the only place we can encounter it, because dreams are not constrained by the erasures of geology. They are porous. They allow resonance to pass through. The forest darkens as if evening has come, though time here is fluid. Shadows lengthen, and in the fading light, you see again the spirals etched into stone, the same spirals first noticed on the plain. They glow faintly, as though reminding you that the dream is not random. Its fragments repeat, recur, return, like motifs in music. Each glimpse is incomplete, but together they create a pattern that suggests the portal is not endless chaos, but structured, intentional, even if we cannot yet read its language. You touch one of the glowing spirals and feel the forest slip away. You are once again surrounded by stone, but this time it is different. Not a ridge, not a plain, but walls vertical, enclosing. At first they seem natural, like a canyon carved by water. But as you look closer, the shapes are too regular, angles too precise, surfaces too smooth. It feels as though you have stepped into a chamber. Whether it was built or revealed, the dream does not say. The air here is still, heavy with silence. At the center of the chamber lies a pool. Its surface is mirror-like, perfectly still. When you lean over, You expect to see your reflection. Instead, you see movement. Not your face, not your form, but shifting images of landscapes and creatures, flowing together like currents. Oceans rise and vanish, mountains grow and crumble, forests bloom and wither. Each moment flashes, then yields to the next, an unbroken sequence of becoming. The pool is not a mirror, it is a memory, not a record of one time or one place, but of everything. A condensation of Earth's endless transformations, contained in a single surface. You reach out, and as your hand grazes the water, the images scatter. Ripples expand outward, and for a moment, it feels as though the entire history of the planet is radiating through you, not as knowledge, but as presence. You are not observing, you are part of it, inseparable from the flow. And then the ripples fade, the pool stills, the chamber darkens. The dream holds the silence for a long moment, as if inviting you to remember what has just passed. Not to understand it fully, but to carry the impression, the resonance. Because in this dream, as in all dreams, the meaning is not in clarity. It is in the lingering echo, the quiet reminder that the world is vaster, older, and more mysterious than waking life allows us to see. The silence in the chamber deepens until it feels like sound itself has been erased. The pool before you is dark now, no longer shimmering with images, but waiting. You sense that the stillness is not absence. It is potential, like the pause before a note is struck. The dream holds you here, and slowly, something begins to stir. At first it is only vibration, a low resonance that seems to rise not from the chamber walls, but from within your own chest. Then light begins to flicker at the edges of the pool, faint at first, then brighter, shifting like phosphorescence in ocean water. Shapes emerge again, but this time they do not show landscapes or creatures. They show threads, weaving and unweaving, glowing lines that drift and knot together, dissolving and reforming in endless repetition. You realize that what you are seeing is not the history of Earth in stone or sea, but the history of life itself, expressed in strands. They stretch across the pool like constellations, spiraling and twisting, forming patterns that echo the double helix. You feel the weight of countless generations carried within them, the quiet continuity that links the first single-celled organism to the vast forest, to the dragonfly's wing, to your own dreaming mind. The pool is no longer a mirror. It is a genome written not in letters, but in luminous breath. The dream invites you closer. As you lean toward the pool, one thread brightens, pulsing with light. You sense it is not random. It is a memory encoded not in stone, but in the very structure of life. And within that thread, an image rises, a shoreline at dusk, waves lapping against sand, and on the horizon a form emerging from the water. It is not human, not yet mammal, but something between. Its body is elongated, limbs uncertain, its head lifting cautiously toward the air. It pauses as though listening, then takes a slow step forward, pressing its weight onto land for the first time. This is not a dream of myth, it is a dream of transition, the kind that has occurred countless times in Earth's history. Life shifting, testing, adapting. The amphibian on the shore is not symbolic. It is an ancestor, not yours directly, but part of the long chain that makes your presence possible. You feel the weight of its step echo into the present. In this way, the dream is not showing you a portal into another world. It is showing you the portal that has already been crossed, the passage that life itself made when it carried breath from water to air. The pool shimmers again, and the shoreline dissolves. Another thread brightens, and another scene rises. This time it is not an amphibian, but something smaller, scurrying across the forest floor beneath towering ferns. Its body is fragile, its bones delicate, yet it survives. The dream lets you feel its heartbeat, rapid and insistent, carrying forward the possibility of mammals in a world still ruled by giants. You realize that the dream is not only showing the great moments of history, but the quiet, fragile ones as well. The overlooked moments that still changed everything. The vision shifts once more, and you see a different kind of thread. This one is darker, heavy with silence. It carries the impression of endings. The pall reveals a sky dimmed by ash, oceans struggling under weight, forests collapsing. The earth has known extinction many times. Each one a portal not to growth but to erasure. And yet even here, the dream does not despair. It shows the resilience that followed, the small forms that endured, the way life persisted through loss. The threads do not break, they bend, they fray, but they continue. As you watch, a thought surfaces quietly. Perhaps dreams as portals are not only to other places or times. Perhaps they are also portals into continuity itself, allowing us to feel the deep persistence of life, the way each generation is bound to the next. Dreams may let us touch the long memory carried in our very selves, memories not of personal experience, but of survival, adaptation, resilience. When you dream of water, of flight, of forests you have never walked, perhaps you are brushing against this genetic archive, this inheritance etched into the spirals of life. The pool glows brighter, then slowly dims, leaving only the resonance of the threads behind. The chamber shifts around you, the smooth walls dissolve into rough stone, and you find yourself moving through a cavern. The air is damp, the ground uneven, the ceiling alive with faint reflections as if lit by fire. But there is no fire. The glow comes from minerals embedded in the rock, veins that pulse faintly like embers. Each step you take echoes softly, the sound swallowed by the depth of the space. On the cavern walls, you notice markings. At first, they seem natural streaks of mineral, fractures in the stone. But as you look closer, the lines reveal intention. They curve into spirals, repeat in intervals, align in ways that suggest rhythm. It is not writing, not in any form you know, but it carries a sense of meaning. Perhaps these are the same spirals seen before, repeated now in the hidden spaces of the dream. Perhaps they are reminders that intelligence, once present, may not always leave behind tools or monuments, but impressions. The markings are not confined to one wall. They cover the cavern, winding across surfaces, disappearing into shadows, reappearing higher above. You follow them slowly, your hand grazing the stone, feeling warmth beneath the cool surface. The warmth seems to pulse, like a heartbeat. Though whether it belongs to the earth or to something else, the dream does not say. The path leads deeper into the cavern, and there you find something unexpected. A chamber within the chamber, smaller, circular, its ceiling low enough to bow your head. At the center rests a single stone, smooth, polished by time or touch. It glows faintly, not from light, but from presence. When you approach, you realize it is not alone. Around it, arranged in a circle, are smaller stones, each marked with a spiral. Together they form a pattern that feels deliberate, a geometry both simple and profound. You kneel beside the central stone and place your hand upon it. At once, the dream shifts. You feel not a vision of landscape or life, but a sensation of connection. It is as though the stone is a node in a network, linked to countless others across time and space. You cannot see them, but you feel them stones in other caverns, on other planes, in other dreams. each one carrying the same spiral, each one part of the same silent language. The message is not in words but in continuity, a pattern carried through time, passed on not as fact, but as impression. In waking life, we might call such moments coincidence or invention of the dreaming brain. But here, within the flow of the portal, it feels like recognition, as though something beyond human memory has reached across ages to say, remember. Remember not the details, but the rhythm. Remember not the structures, but the continuity. The chamber fades, and you find yourself walking through darkness once again. The cavern walls dissolve, leaving you beneath an open sky. Stars scatter above, bright and countless. The ground beneath your feet is soft, perhaps sand, perhaps dust. The air is still, carrying only the faint hum of distance. You look upward and feel the immensity of the cosmos pressing gently against you. Here, the dream shifts scale. No longer confined to the ridges, the seas, the forests, or the caverns of Earth, it expands outward. You sense that the portals of dreams are not bound to one planet. They are part of the same fabric that carries memory across galaxies, across time without measure. The stars above are not simply lights, they are archives of light, each carrying histories too vast to imagine. And in this dream, you are allowed to sense that you are not outside of them. You are within them, made of the same matter, part of the same resonance. The sky ripples, as though the stars themselves are breathing. Patterns form among them, constellations not of animals or gods, but of spirals, lattice, and threads. The same shapes you have seen in stone, in pools, in caverns, now written across the heavens. The dream is repeating itself at a different scale, reminding you that the patterns are not local, they are universal. The spiral of a galaxy mirrors the spiral in a fossil shell, mirrors the spiral etched into a cavern wall, mirrors the spiral that glows within your own cells. The dream is a portal because it reveals connection. The ground shifts beneath your feet, and suddenly you are falling, not downward, not into fear, but into depth. The stars blur, the sky dissolves, and you are carried once more into silence. It is the same silence as before, rich and waiting, and you realize that silence itself may be the greatest portal, for within it lies every possibility, every memory, every connection, held not in noise, but in stillness. The dream holds you there, suspended, until even the sense of self begins to blur. You are not observer or traveler anymore. You are part of the pattern, one thread among countless threads, one spiral among infinite spirals. And in that realization, the dream does not end. It deepens, continuing to weave you into the story that began long before you and will continue long after. The silence stretches like fabric, holding you within its folds. Slowly, the sense of falling eases, and you find yourself touching ground again. The air is cool now, thinner, carrying the crisp scent of snow. Around you rises a vast expanse of white, a frozen plain under a pale sky. There are no trees, no rivers, only the endless spread of ice. The dream does not rush to explain. It allows the quiet to settle, to let you feel the immensity of this place. The snow is not freshly fallen. It is ancient, compacted layer upon layer, each one preserving a fragment of the past. Beneath your feet lies not only cold, but memory pressed into crystal, bubbles of air trapped for hundreds of thousands of years. If dreams are portals, then the ice is a library, each flake a page, each glacier a volume. You walk slowly across the plain, your steps muffled. The horizon glows faintly with the light of a sun hidden behind cloud. In the distance, a ridge of ice rises, jagged like the teeth of some ancient creature. You move toward it, sensing that the dream is guiding you. As you draw nearer, the ridge resolves into a wall, fractured with deep blue veins. Within those veins, you see shapes, tiny particles, faint streaks, subtle hints of what the air once carried. Dust from deserts long vanished, ash from eruptions long forgotten, pollen from forests that no longer exist. The dream lets you place your hand upon the wall. The ice is cold, but not lifeless. As your palm rests against it, visions stir. A forest appears, green and teeming, where now there is only snow. Birds move in flocks across the canopy. Insects hum in the thick air. Then the forest fades, replaced by open grassland where herds migrate across wide plains. Another shift, and you see deserts, winds carrying sand in waves across barren expanses. Each vision is brief, but each is vivid. The ice remembers. You realize that the glacier is not only a monument of cold, but a portal through which climates speak. Dreams do not invent these scenes. They draw them from the record, impressions carried in molecules of air, preserved against time. In waking life, scientists drill into this memory, reading the ice for carbon, for oxygen, for clues. In the dream, you do not measure, you feel. The shifts of climate, the expansion and retreat of forests, the cycles of abundance and scarcity. They move through you like breath. The vision expands further. You see not only forests and deserts, but the beings that lived within them. Mammoths moving slowly across frozen ground, their breath steaming in the cold. Herds of antelope scattering before unseen predators. Flocks of birds darkening the sky, their wings beating in rhythm with the winds. None of them remain in the present world, yet here, within the dream, they are not gone. They are threads woven into the same fabric. You walk deeper into the icy ridge and find yourself within a cavern carved by time. The walls glow faintly, not from light, but from the way the ice bends what little light there is. Within this cavern, you see spirals once again, not etched by hand, but formed naturally by the curling of fractures, the flow of frozen water. The repetition is unmistakable. The dream is reminding you that patterns recur, whether in stone, in water, in cells, or in ice. The spirals pulse gently, and once more the scene shifts. The ice cavern dissolves, replaced by a desert. The sand stretches endlessly, rippling in waves shaped by wind. The air is dry, the heat intense, yet even here, there is life. Sparse grasses cling to pockets of soil. Small creatures dart across the surface, leaving brief tracks that vanish with the next gust. The desert is not empty. It is a record written in different ink. The dunes themselves hold memory, the shapes revealing the direction of winds, their layers marking seasons of abundance and scarcity. The dream lets you feel the passage of time not as linear, but as cyclical. The dune you stand upon now may be gone tomorrow, but its particles will carry forward, shaped into a new form. The desert remembers by transforming. You kneel and press your hand into the sand. It is hot, rough, shifting. Yet within its grains lie fragments of stone, far older than the desert itself. Tiny crystals that once belonged to mountains, now ground down, carried here across endless distances. The desert is a portal too, though its language is different. It does not preserve in stillness, but in movement. Each grain is a traveler, each ripple a passage. The dream lifts you upward, and you see the desert from above. The dunes resemble waves, an ocean frozen in motion. Their curves echo the spirals, echo the threads seen in the pool, echo the galaxies themselves. The dream is insistent in its quiet repetition, Patterns bind all things. Whether in snow, in sand, or in stars, the forms recur, whispering of continuity. The heat of the desert fades, replaced by cold once more, but this time it is not ice, it is stone. A mountain range rises around you, jagged peaks piercing the clouds. The air is thin, sharp. The ground is solid, ancient. The dream places you on a high ridge, and you look out across valleys carved by rivers long since gone. The mountains are immense, yet their surfaces are worn. Even the tallest peak is not eternal. Wind and rain are patient, and in time even these giants return to dust. You run your hand across the rock and feel its texture, its coarseness, its weight. Within it are minerals that formed under immense heat and pressure. Deep within the earth, the mountain is a fragment of the planet's interior, lifted upward by the slow motion of plates. In waking life, this process is measured in centimeters per year. In the dream, you feel it as heartbeat, as breath. The mountains rise and fall like waves, only slower, so slow that their rhythm is almost beyond comprehension. And yet it is rhythm nonetheless. The dream shows you a vision of their beginning. Molten rock pushing upward, hardening, fracturing, folding. Valleys carved by rivers rushing with meltwater. Glaciers grinding down their slopes. Forests spreading across their foothills, only to retreat with ice, then return again. Each phase carries memory. The mountain is not simply a peak. It is a history written in stone, a portal to processes so vast they blur the line between geology and eternity. You stand there, breathing the thin air, and feel the strange intimacy of the dream. The mountain is immense, beyond scale, yet it is not distant. It is connected to you, as your body is built from the same minerals, the same atoms, formed in the same cycles. To stand here is to recognize that your existence is not separate from the mountains. You are both expressions of the same earth, both temporary, both enduring in different ways. The vision shifts again, and now you see rivers, countless rivers, winding across plains. They glisten in the light, carving their paths slowly, endlessly. Some dry and vanish, leaving valleys behind. Others swell and flood, remaking the land. The dream lets you see the rivers not as water alone, but as veins of memory, carrying soil, stone, and life across distances. Each river is a thread, weaving landscapes together, joining mountains to seas. You watch as one river empties into a vast delta, its channels branching like roots. Sediment gathers, layer upon layer, building land where none existed before. And within that sediment lie fragments of shells, grains of pollen, traces of lives small and vast. The river is not only water, it is archive, carrying the story of its entire journey. To stand at its mouth is to read the history of mountains, forests, and storms, all braided together. As the river fades, the dream pulls you downward once more, into the soil itself. Darkness surrounds you, yet it is not empty. Roots stretch through the earth, delicate and strong. Insects move through tunnels, fungi weave networks finer than any thread. The soil breathes with life unseen, and in this hidden world lies a different kind of portal, one that does not look backward in time, but outward across connection. The fungi glow faintly, their threads shimmering like constellations. You sense their communication, the quiet transfer of signals and nutrients across vast distances. The soil is alive not only with organisms, but with exchange, with conversation. The dream allows you to feel the pulse of this hidden network, as though you are part of its web. It is a reminder that portals are not only to the past or the cosmic, they exist beneath our feet, here and now. If only we know how to listen. The soil darkens further, and the dream deepens into silence once more. You are left with the impression of continuity, ice and desert, mountain and river, soil and root all woven together. Each environment a portal, each carrying memory, each echoing the same patterns. And as you drift in this silence, the dream waits, preparing to open yet another door. The silence softens, and as if a veil is lifted, the dream carries you into a new landscape. This time there are voices, faint at first, like wind moving through reeds. Shapes gather in the distance, not mountains, not rivers, but figures. They move with purpose, though slowly, as though carved from the same earth they walk upon. You realize the dream has brought you into the company of early humans, ancestors whose lives were bound to the rhythms of stone and fire. Their world is not empty. It is filled with sound, with the crackle of flames, with the whisper of water flowing nearby, with the hush of footsteps over grass. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is permanent. One figure kneels by the riverbank, shaping a tool from flint. The sound of stone against stone rings through the air. Each strike is deliberate, practiced, a knowledge passed down not in books or tablets, but in gesture and memory. The tool that emerges is simple, yet it carries within it countless generations of refinement. In this act lies a portal too, a connection between those who first struck stone and all who would come after. Another figure tends to the fire, feeding it with twigs and branches. The flames rise and fall, their light flickering against the walls of a cave nearby. You step closer, drawn by the glow, and within the cave you see markings. Lines, curves, shapes that resemble animals, rivers, stars. They are not merely drawings, they are attempts to preserve something larger than survival. They are portals carved into stone, invitations for future eyes to see. The cave is silent but alive. The walls seem to pulse faintly as you gaze upon them. The animals drawn here are no longer outside the cave, yet within these markings they endure. The rivers etched here still flow, though in different courses. The stars still shine above, though their patterns shift with the ages. The dream is showing you that humans to have always sought portals, always tried to reach beyond the moment, to carry memory forward. You step deeper into the cave, and the walls seem to ripple. The paintings blur, then reform into new shapes. You see hands pressed into the rock, outlines left behind as if to say, "We were here." These hands are not only marks of presence, they are bridges across time, portals through which the living reach out to the unseen. The dream expands, and suddenly you are standing not in a cave, but in a settlement. Simple huts rise from the ground, built of wood and clay. Smoke drifts upward into the sky. People move between the huts, carrying baskets, shaping vessels, weaving fibers. Their gestures are fluid, practiced, familiar. They are not so different from the gestures you know today, though separated by thousands of years. One woman kneels to shape clay into a bowl. She smooths its edges, her fingers leaving faint traces that will harden into permanence. Another figure weaves reeds into a mat, each strand crossing another, creating a pattern of strength and flexibility. These acts are not grand monuments, they are quiet, everyday portals, small bridges that allow knowledge to travel across generations. The dream lets you feel the continuity of these actions. The clay bowl in one hand becomes the ceramic cup in another age. The woven mat becomes the woven cloth. The flint tool becomes the blade of metal. The continuity is not broken. It is carried forward, reshaped but recognizable. Every act of making is a portal, a doorway through which the past whispers into the present. As you watch, the settlement shifts, the huts grow larger, the walls stronger, the pathways more defined. The people gather in groups, speaking, exchanging, creating patterns of movement that resemble rivers and routes. You see trade emerging, the exchange of goods, the weaving of connection across distances. Each path becomes a thread in a larger fabric. The dream pulls you upward, and you see the settlement from above. It expands like a spiral, huts becoming houses, paths becoming roads, gathering places becoming centers of community. The spiral echoes what you have seen before in the pool, in the ice, in the desert dunes. The pattern is the same, repeating across scales. Human society is not separate from nature. It is another expression of it, another spiral in the endless unfolding. You drift closer again and hear the sound of voices raised in song. A group gathers around a fire, their words rising and falling with rhythm. You cannot understand the language, but you feel its weight. Language itself is a portal, a way of carrying thought beyond the moment. Words are stones placed carefully across a river, each one allowing passage from one mind to another. The song fades, and the dream shifts once more. You now stand among stone structures, vast and deliberate. Great blocks rise, fitted together with care. These are not huts, not temporary shelters. They are monuments, built to endure. Their builders are gone, but their work remains, speaking silently across thousands of years. You walk among the stones, feeling their cool surfaces. They are not smooth. They carry the marks of tools, the effort of countless hands. They are not lifeless. They are memory made solid. Each block is a word in a story written not on paper, but in stone. And the story still speaks, though its meaning is partly lost. The dream shows you images of the builders. Their lives were bound to seasons, to rivers, to soil. Yet they lifted their gaze to the sky, to the stars. They align their monuments not only with the land, but with the heavens. The structures became portals of another kind, connecting Earth to cosmos, anchoring the rhythms of human life to cycles beyond their control. As you walk, you feel the weight of these monuments, not only in stone, but in intention. They were not built simply to shelter or to store. They were built to carry memory, to ensure that something endured beyond the builders themselves. In this, they succeeded. You are here, within the dream, thousands of years later, still listening to the echo of their work. The vision shifts again, and now you see not one monument but many. Cities rise, vast networks of stone and clay, then brick and metal. Streets stretch outward, filled with movement. The dream allows you to drift above them, watching as they expand and contract, as they thrive and decline. Each city is a heartbeat, each civilization a breath. You see walls built high, then crumbling, temples rising, then falling silent, markets bustling, then abandoned. The pattern is familiar now. It is the same as the forests that grew and vanished, the rivers that changed course, the mountains that rose and eroded. Human societies follow the same rhythms. They build, they endure, they fade. Yet in fading, they leave traces, portals for those who come after. The dream pulls you into one city, into its narrow streets. The air is filled with sound and scent. Vendors call out their wares. Children run between stalls. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The details are vivid, alive, yet you know this city is longing waking life. Its stones are buried, its voice is silent, but within the dream, it persists, carried not by architecture alone, but by memory, by fragments left behind. You turn a corner, and see inscriptions carved into stone. The symbols are precise, deliberate, crafted to last. They speak of trade, of rulers, of beliefs. Some tell of victories, others of laws, others of prayers. Each inscription is a voice reaching forward, a hand extended across centuries. Writing itself is a portal, the most enduring yet fragile of all. The dream lets you feel the fragility. A single fire can erase a library. A single collapse can bury archives for millennia, yet even fragments carry meaning. A shard of pottery, a broken tablet, a worn inscription. They are portals that require patience, but they still open, and through them, voices continue to speak, however faintly. As the dream deepens, you see the city fade. Its stones crumble, its streets vanish beneath soil and vegetation, yet the portal remains. In your mind, you still walk those streets, still hear those voices. The city is not gone. It has simply shifted into another form of memory. The dream lingers on this point. Humans, like rivers and mountains, like forests and deserts, leave traces. Some endure for thousands of years, others vanish within days. Yet all are part of the same fabric. Each act of living, of building, of speaking, is a portal, carrying something forward. You stand once more in silence, the visions receding, the echoes of cities and songs fading into stillness. The dream holds you gently, as if preparing to show you something deeper still. The silence does not last. It softens and gives way to a strange new vision. You are standing at the edge of a coastline, though the sea is not the one you know. The air feels warmer, heavier, and the waves carry with them the scent of a world unfamiliar. Behind you, the land rises in terraces, each step carved with precision. Ahead of you, the water stretches endlessly, dotted with islands that shimmer in the mist. You feel the presence of something more than nature here. The terraces are not natural formations. They are deliberate, shaped by hands that no longer exist. Stones cut, arranged, and aligned, yet weathered by tides until their edges are rounded. You recognize them not as ruins in the usual sense, but as hints, fragments of a people whose name is gone, whose story is not written in any surviving script. The dream does not name them. It never does. It allows only the suggestion, the feeling that these terraces, these walls, these faint outlines of foundations belong to a culture that rose, thrived, and vanished. Not mythical, not invented, simply forgotten. Their traces buried not by malice, but by time, by ocean, by erosion, by the slow reshaping of the earth itself. You kneel and place your hand against one of the stones. The surface is rough, covered with the scars of waves. Yet as you close your eyes, the dream reveals what once was. You see gardens spread across these terraces, carefully tended. Water flowing through channels, carrying life from one level to another. Structures rising, open to the wind, their roofs woven from reeds, their supports carved from timber. People move between them, carrying baskets, shaping clay, speaking words that you cannot understand. The vision is fleeting. It vanishes as quickly as it comes, but the feeling remains. Lives were lived here. Entire generations. Children laughed and grew. Elders taught and remembered. Songs were sung, and perhaps prayers whispered to the sea. All of it gone now, except for the faintest trace in stone. The dream draws you deeper. The sea itself rises, waves swelling as if eager to reveal their secrets. You are carried beneath the surface, into the dim light where fish drift and corals grow. At first, it seems like any other seabed, but then you notice lines to straight, angles to precise, blocks of stone half buried in sand, steps leading nowhere, pillars tilted and broken. The ocean has claimed them, but their shapes betray their origin. For a moment, you see them whole, a plaza filled with voices, columns supporting a roof of woven beams, vessels arriving from across the horizon, their sails catching the wind. The sea was not always barrier, it was pathway, connection, life. And then, just as swiftly, it was undoing. Storms, waves, rising waters, the ocean that gave also took. The dream leaves you with questions. How many such places lie beneath the surface, unmarked, unremembered? How many lives have vanished not only from memory, but from record itself? The earth does not preserve everything. It recycles, it erases, it begins again. And in that erasure, civilizations can vanish so thoroughly that even the idea of their existence fades. You rise from the water and find yourself on dry land once more. This time, the ruins are inland, scattered across a plain. They are not built of stone alone, but of clay, of wood, of materials meant for immediacy rather than permanence. What remains are faint ridges, shallow depressions, the ghostly outlines of walls. To the untrained eye, it might look like nothing more than natural undulations. Yet the dream insists, here too was life. You see briefly the walls rising, the roofs thatched, the fields tilled and planted. Smoke rising from fires, people moving with purpose. You hear the rhythm of their tools against wood, the murmur of voices, the sound of animals in pens. None of it monumental, none of it designed to endure for millennia. Yet it was real, it was present, and it mattered. The dream lets you feel the fragility of memory. Civilizations need not fall in fire or violence. They can fade quietly, their structures dissolving back into soil, their tools corroding, their language unspoken, their names forgotten. What remains is absorbed into the earth until even the idea that they ever were becomes uncertain. You walk across the plain and notice a shard of pottery half buried in the dirt. You pick it up, and the dream shows you the vessel it once belonged to. A bowl painted with patterns of waves and spirals, held in the hands of someone who lived thousands of years ago. They filled it with grain, with water, with food shared among family. The shard in your hand is all that remains, yet it is enough to open a portal into their world. The dream is teaching you that absence is not emptiness. Even the smallest fragment carries connection. The ruins may be gone, the names erased, but the traces whisper still. If only faintly, you are carried forward again, into a dense forest. The canopy closes overhead, and shafts of light break through in golden beams. At first it seems untouched, a wilderness without memory. But then you notice shapes in the undergrowth. Mounds, ridges, lines too straight for chance. They are swallowed by roots and vines, yet they suggest once again the hand of builders. The dream allows you to see them uncovered. Pathways laid with stone, walls rising in terraces, towers built of wood, adorned with banners. A thriving community, hidden now beneath centuries of growth. The forest has reclaimed it, yet in doing so, it preserved it too, sheltering the stones beneath layers of soil and leaf. You hear the forest breathing. It whispers of cycles. Growth covering ruin, ruin feeding growth. Each layer conceals and reveals in turn. A civilization may vanish, but the earth that reclaims it carries forward its essence. Seeds planted in fields may survive as wild growth. Domesticated animals may roam free and become wild again. Even in disappearance, continuity persists. The dream expands outward, and you see not only one forest, but countless hidden places. Valleys with buried towns, deserts hiding once fertile lands, rivers covering the foundations of villages, oceans concealing entire coasts. The earth is full of absences that are not empty. Portals waiting for eyes patient enough to look, or dreams willing enough to reveal. You sense that some civilizations may have risen so far back in time that no trace remains at all. Before the pyramids, before the first scripts, perhaps even before what we now call humans. Entire chapters erased so cleanly that only silence remains. And yet, the dream suggests silence too is a kind of presence. It invites us to wonder, to imagine, to remember what we cannot know. The vision deepens into stillness. You are left with the awareness that forgotten civilizations are not fantasy. They are inevitability. Time is vast, and memory fragile. Most of what has lived, built, sunk, and dreamed on this planet is already lost. Yet through the faintest traces, the shard of pottery, the terrace buried in soil, the stone beneath the waves, the portals remain. You stand quietly, listening to the silence between visions. The dream holds you, letting the weight of what has been forgotten settle around you. And in that silence, you begin to understand that forgetting itself is part of the pattern. The earth does not cling. It transforms. It allows new to rise where old has vanished. And in this endless cycle, there is mystery and there is wonder. The dream shifts again. And now the land beneath your feet feels familiar. The forests are younger here, the rivers clear, the mountains settled in forms you might recognize in maps or memories. This is a world closer to your own, yet it is still not entirely now. The air carries the scent of soil turned by hands long gone, of fires that have cooled, of seeds that grew and vanished before we could name them. You walk along a riverbank, its water glinting in the light, stones worn smooth by centuries of flow, driftwood caught against roots, small fish darting beneath the surface. The river carries everything forward, minerals, nutrients, life itself. And in this river, you sense the echoes of those who came before. Early humans, forgotten civilizations, transient settlements that left little more than soil impressions and faint fragments of tools. All of them are threads, and the river is the medium that carries them. A village appears on the horizon, simple dwellings of wood and clay. People move between huts, their hands shaping, building, feeding, and tending. They do not speak your language, but you understand them nonetheless. The dream has long since removed the need for translation. It allows you to perceive intention, the quiet work of survival, creation, and connection. Their lives are ordinary, yet each moment carries significance, a whisper of continuity that stretches into the present. You linger, observing how they interact. Children play near the water, their laughter light and fleeting. Adults carry baskets of grain, sharing food and water, tending fires. Elders pass down knowledge, how to shape clay, how to find the best fishing spots, how to read the wind and clouds. The patterns are simple yet precise. Each generation contributes a layer to the larger story, and you sense that every action matters, whether recorded in stone or carried solely in memory. The dream carries you forward, following the river as it curves past fields, hills, and forests. Along the way, remnants appear, tools, a broken pot, a fragment of woven cloth. Each is small, fragile, easily overlooked, yet each carries a portal of its own. The dream allows you to see the past within these fragments. A bowl holds grain. A tool is shaped for cutting, for building, for making life possible. The cloth once covered a body, protected a child, shaded a family. You watch a group working together to construct a larger dwelling. Logs are lifted, tied with fibers, fitted into place with patience and care. You feel the resonance of their labor, the rhythm of hands, the shared effort, the coordination necessary to transform materials into shelter. This is civilization in its quietest form, not monumental, not written into history books, but foundational. Each action is a portal bridging the past and the future. Each effort another thread in the enduring pattern. As the dream deepens, you see a shift. The village expands into a larger settlement. Paths become streets, huts become buildings. Markets emerge, filled with people exchanging goods, skills, and knowledge. Fires burn in hearths and forges. The sound of hammer against metal joins the songs of voices. There is industry here, yet it is harmonious with the land. The settlement grows, yet it does not overwhelm the environment. You move through the streets, feeling the weight of intention behind every structure, every tool, every gesture. The dream shows you not only what is visible, but also what is hidden, the moments of care, of cooperation, of learning. It reminds you that civilizations are not merely stone and metal, but networks of living action. The people themselves are portals, each life carrying forward lessons, skills, and memory. You pause near a well in the town square. Children gather water, their laughter echoing. Elders stand nearby, teaching, observing, guiding. You notice inscriptions etched into stone markers around the well, symbols of time, of events, of ritual. You do not read them in words. You read them as patterns, as portals, as threads connecting generations. They speak not only of what was, but of what endures. The dream allows you to feel the fragility of this continuity. Even as the settlement thrives, you sense the impermanence. Floods may come, fires may rage, soils may erode. And yet, the essence of what has been knowledge, intention, connection persists. The dream emphasizes that even in disappearance, nothing is entirely lost. Threads remain, subtle, waiting to be recognized. The landscape begins to stretch beyond the settlement. Fields open to hills, hills to mountains, mountains to plains that sweep into the horizon. And scattered across this land, you see faint traces of other settlements. They are smaller, simpler, often abandoned, yet their presence is undeniable. Some are partially reclaimed by forests, others by grasslands, others by sand or stone. The dream reveals the layers of habitation, the cycles of building, thriving, and fading. You move among these traces, and each seems to whisper its own story. One cluster of stones suggests a hearth long extinguished. A worn path indicates repeated passage of feet, the rhythm of human life. Broken pottery carries patterns, faded yet discernible. Each artifact is a portal, allowing you to step across time and enter the lives of those who shaped it. And as you move, you realize the scale. Thousands of settlements, countless lives, all part of the same pattern of rise, entrance, and quiet decay. The dream expands further still. You rise above the plains and see entire networks of habitation. Paths crisscross the land like veins, rivers carry water, soil, and memory. Forests and deserts alternate, each shaping human activity, each carrying the weight of those who lived, worked, and dreamed. Civilizations emerge, flourish, and recede. Some leave monuments, others leave only fragments, yet all leave traces. You sense now that the dream is asking you to consider your own place within this continuum. The settlements you see, the monuments, the tools, the simple acts of living, these are all threads in the same tapestry. Your presence, your knowledge, your memories, will one day be woven into it as well. The dream allows you to feel both the impermanence and the entrance of life simultaneously. The dream moves forward, and the settlements you see begin to resemble cities. Streets become organized, buildings rise taller, walls and gates mark boundaries. The activity is dense, almost overwhelming, yet the dream keeps its calm pace. You move through the city as an observer, feeling the rhythm of daily life. People going to work, gathering food, teaching children, repairing structures, creating art. The human thread continues, persistent across time. Amid the bustling city, you notice small details: children playing in the streets, a baker kneading dough, artisans carving wood, scribes etching records. None of these are monumental events, yet each is a portal, a thread carrying memory and intention forward. The dream emphasizes that history is not only shaped by rulers and wars, but by ordinary lives, each act contributing to the enduring web. You wander into a marketplace where traders exchange goods from far-off regions. Spices, cloth, grains, and pottery fill the stalls. The air carries a mixture of scents and sounds, each subtle detail contributing to the sense of vibrancy and connection. The dream lets you see the network of influence that stretches beyond the city, the exchange of ideas, of materials, of culture. Trade itself becomes a portal, linking people across space and time. The dream pulls back, allowing you to view the city from above. Patterns emerge, spirals of streets, concentric rings of dwellings, avenues radiating outward like veins. The shapes echo the spirals and threads seen in ice, desert dunes, rivers, and galaxies. Civilization, like nature, forms recurring patterns, revealing continuity in both human creation and Earth's broader processes. The dream allows you to feel the passage of generations. People grow, teach, and pass away. Buildings rise and fall, roads are repurposed, markets shift. Despite decay, the city's essence endures in memory, in artifacts, in traces embedded in the soil. The dream reminds you that even when civilizations fade, portals remain, fragments of culture, knowledge, and intention waiting for recognition. You move toward the edge of the city and see the surrounding landscape: forests, rivers, mountains. Smaller settlements dot the horizon, connected by paths and trade routes. Some are abandoned, others thriving. The dream emphasizes the delicate balance between entrance and disappearance. Human activity, though significant, is always subject to the greater rhythms of Earth, climate, geology, and the passage of time. As the dream deepens, you sense the parallels between these past civilizations and the one you inhabit. The structures, the networks, the patterns of daily life, though different in scale, and technology follow the same basic currents. You feel the responsibility inherent in knowing this, the knowledge that what you build, what you create, and what you care for will become part of the tapestry. The dream shifts to night, and the city glows softly with fires and lamps. The streets are quieter now, and the sound of life slows to a meditative rhythm. You wander among the dwellings, noticing small details: smoke rising, windows flickering with candlelight, children sleeping under blankets, families gathered. The human presence is tangible, yet fleeting. You sense the impermanence of these moments, and at the same time, their enduring significance. Above, stars begin to appear. The constellations are faintly familiar, yet slightly shifted. The sky itself is a portal, connecting the city and its inhabitants to a cosmos that existed long before and will continue long after. The dream allows you to feel the scale. Human life, though seemingly small, is entwined with the larger rhythms of Earth and universe. You stand quietly, absorbing the totality of what you have witnessed: forgotten civilizations, enduring patterns, ordinary lives that persist as portals through time. The dream emphasizes that continuity does not require monuments or written records. It exists in traces, in actions, in relationships, in the subtle movement of life through generations. Even as cities fade, rivers shift, forests reclaim land, and oceans rise, the portals remain. They are subtle, waiting for recognition, but they endure. The dream lets you sense that humanity's place in this vast continuum is neither trivial nor permanent, but meaningful in its participation. Every act carries forward, every choice shapes the threads, every life leaves a faint but indelible mark. The dream unfolds slowly, carrying you over landscapes, both familiar and strange. Rivers wind like silver threads across plains that ripple into hills and mountains. Forests stretch in quiet abundance, their leaves moving with a breeze that feels older than memory. The earth speaks in subtle tones here, in the rhythm of water, the sway of trees, the whisper of wind across stones. You move with ease, observing as the land transitions from one form to another. Valleys rise into ridges, ridges crumble into plains, rivers carve paths through soil and rock, then disappear, leaving traces that hint at their past presence. In these movements, you sense continuity each shift, each cycle, a portal of memory holding the story of the planet and all its inhabitants. Across this land, the traces of humans appear again. Settlements, both grand and simple, emerge from the earth. Some are thriving, alive with motion, while others are abandoned, slowly being reclaimed by soil, grass, and forest. The dream shows you that civilization is never permanent. It is a pulse, a rhythm, an act of living that leaves fragments behind. You see tools left beside fires, pottery discarded or broken, fragments of structures half buried in earth. Each fragment is a portal, an invitation to step into the lives of those who came before. You see people walking paths, teaching children, harvesting food, sharing stories. Their gestures are ordinary, yet in them is the extraordinary, the persistence of life, memory, and intention across centuries. The dream carries you upward, revealing patterns repeated across scales. Spirals and concentric circles appear in rivers, forests, settlements, and even galaxies. You recognize the echo of forms seen in ice, desert dunes, mountains, and oceans. Life itself moves in patterns, and civilization is simply another expression of these rhythms. Each act, each construction, each song and story is a thread in the tapestry, linking past to present. You drift above a forest and see clearings where ancient villages once stood. Now, the trees reclaim the space, roots breaking through stones, leaves covering pathways. Yet in the dream, the villages persist, fires burn in hearths, children run along the paths, elders teach what they know. The earth does not erase entirely, it transforms. The memory endures in altered forms, waiting to be recognized. You move through these transformations and see the subtle traces of countless forgotten civilizations. Terraces of stone half buried in sand, pillars tipped over in the sea, clay huts swallowed by soil. Each is a whisper, a portal into the lives of those who built, who worked, who loved, who passed on. Even in absence, they speak. The dream shifts to the present. Cities appear, modern and bustling. Streets stretch like arteries, lined with structures built of glass and steel. People move quickly, voices and vehicles filling the air. You sense the continuity, Despite differences in scale and technology, the human pulse remains unchanged. The cities rise and fall with the same patterns seen in ancient settlements. Tools change, but the acts of living, creating, connecting endure. You move quietly through these modern streets, noticing the small portals embedded within daily life. A child draws in chalk on the sidewalk. A baker kneads dough. A teacher writes on a board. These ordinary actions, repeated countless times, carry the same weight as the flint tools, pottery, and wooden huts of ages past. Civilization is built in fragments, and memory travels through gesture, through craft, through presence. The dream lifts you upward once more, above rivers and mountains, cities and forests. You see Earth as a whole, a planet of patterns, of cycles, of life persisting despite impermanence. Layers of memory lie in ice, in soil, in stone, in water, in the air itself. Time is vast, and human presence is brief, yet it is significant, a thread in the larger weave. You feel the echoes of those who came before humans, perhaps others, civilizations erased by time yet preserved in fragments, in portals waiting to be discovered. Their presence is not dramatic or complete. It is subtle, quiet, yet profound. It is in the soil, the rivers, the ruins, the small gestures that continue through generations. Each act carries forward. Each life leaves a mark. The dream carries you to the oceans. Beneath waves, you see remnants of ports, ships, and structures once touched by human hands. Water has reclaimed these spaces, yet memory persists in form and pattern. Currents swirl, carrying sediments, seeds, and fragments across vast distances. Even destruction transforms into continuity. The earth is patient. It records, reshapes, and preserves in ways that are not always obvious. You move back to the forests, the deserts, the ice, the mountains, sensing that all of it is connected. Human civilization is one layer among many. The actions of the past, the shaping of land, the building of cities, the creation of tools and stories, all are threads in a web that stretches across time and space. Dreams themselves are portals. They allow us to step into layers otherwise unseen, to witness memory preserved in the earth, the water, and the air. The dream allows you to sense the fragile balance. Human life is both ephemeral and enduring. A single action may be lost, yet collective patterns persist. Cities crumble, civilizations vanish, and yet memory endures in fragments, in acts, in echoes. You understand that the present is always linked to the past, not only through history books or monuments, but through the subtle traces carried forward by Earth itself. You walk along a ridge at sunset, the light casting long shadows across valleys and rivers. The land is quiet now, vast and expansive. You feel the weight of all that has been, the forgotten civilizations, the enduring rivers, the shifting forests, the mountains rising and eroding. And you feel the smallness of individual human life, yet also its significance. Even a brief presence contributes to continuity. Even a fleeting gesture leaves a portal for the future. You pause at the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. Waves crash softly below, carrying the resonance of countless histories. You realize that the sea itself is a memory keeper, holding traces of life, both human and non-human. Currents connect continents, patterns repeat, and all of it moves in cycles beyond full comprehension. The dream invites you to feel gratitude for presence, for continuity, for the possibility of memory persisting through time. The sky darkens gently, and stars emerge in patterns, both familiar and unfamiliar. The constellations are portals themselves, connecting Earth to cosmos, connecting human imagination across generations. You sense the smallness of life against the vast universe, yet also the intimacy. The same elements that formed stars formed the Earth, formed human bodies, formed the consciousness that now observes, that now remembers, that now dreams. The dream slows, the cities fade, the rivers quiet, the forests dim. You remain aware of the traces, the portals, the subtle threads connecting past to present to future. The Earth continues to breathe, silently and steadily. The lives that came before, the civilizations forgotten, the actions small and great, they all endure in some form. You feel this entrance, even as the dream gently prepares to release you. You take a last deep breath of the dream's air. The sensation of walking among glaciers, deserts, mountains, forests, rivers, settlements, and cities lingers. The spirals, the patterns, the cycles of life, of creation, of memory, they are all portals, subtle yet persistent. The Earth carries them forward, and now you carry them in your mind, your consciousness, your awareness. It is time to return. The dream begins to dissolve softly, as if sunlight is seeping into every corner. The landscapes blur, the cities dim, the rivers recede. Yet the feeling remains, a quiet awareness of continuity, of presence, of portals that link every life, every civilization, every act, to the vast, patient rhythms of Earth. You feel your body once more, grounded, warm, safe. And in that presence, you understand that you are part of the story. Your life is brief, yet it contributes to the threads that endure. Every moment, every act, carries significance, however subtle. Every thought, every gesture, every care taken is a portal, opening the past into the future. The stars fade as daylight returns. The Earth remains, patient and enduring, carrying memory in ice, soil, stone, water, and air. You lie quietly, feeling gratitude for the persistence of life, for the traces of those who came before, for the possibility that even the smallest presence matters. The dream has been a gentle teacher, a quiet guide through the portals of time, and now it recedes, leaving you with its wisdom. If you found this journey through time and memory meaningful, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to Earth Files. Sharing your thoughts in the comments where you are and what time it is helps this quiet signal reach other curious minds. Every gesture contributes, like the fragments of civilizations we have glimpsed tonight, building a subtle web of connection across time and space. Good night. May your dreams carry you gently into memory, into wonder, into the quiet knowledge that we are all threads in the vast, enduring tapestry of Earth.